All right, we are back. Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us for the first time, do not worry because this is the first conversation of the day. In as much as you missed the banter between Sakwa and I, you're going to get a lot of information from this because we're talking about youth and political power and leadership, basically. And for this particular conversation, I've been joined by two amazing gentlemen. And the one to my right is Aloo Denish, who is a youth leader and a bioscientist. And then right next to him is Agogo Mikaresh. I am not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but he's a digital political communication strategist and a youth advocate. So many titles. Let me start with you, Agogo, now that I'm on you. What does all this mean? You know, for you, you've said you are a digital political communication strategist. So tell us what that means.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and just having this session this morning to engage with our country and of course the youths in this context. Yeah, so you know when you talk of political power, when you talk of anything revolving around youths, and normally if you talk about political power, maybe just anything revolving around youth without having confined within the four articles of our constitution, because you see now as a country we have a constitution that guides us, and that tells you that anything that you do have to be within the constraint of the constitution. That is Article 1, Article 2, Article 10, and Article 55. Yeah, Article 1, sovereignty, power of the people. As people, we have that power to do what? To demonstrate, to picket, and of course just to call things which are not right and right. Article 2, the supremacy of the constitution. Constitution has that power, you see. So as a supremacy means not anyone can go past or maybe beyond the constitution. Article 55, youths have to be protected by the same constitution, by the same document. Yeah, and of course Article 10, leaders who are in those who are in power, the leaders who are in power in the position of power have a right to do what? To protect those that they lead. So that alone can tell you, because you see, as a country now, when maybe if you're to ask me the state of the nation currently as we speak, there is uproar, there is protest, there is a conversation that started last week. We've seen what happened, what transpired from last week, the killing of the youth, I would say Albert Juang. We see police shooting for the young vendor, but of course also for the protests, as youths, as we go to protest, we need to do what? To be aligned within the constraints of the constitution, so that we don't upset those who are in the position of power, like the police. And also as the police, they should know that under Article 55 they have a right to protect the youths in this aspect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. But I'm still trying to get what you've said is very profound. But what is it that you do as a digital strategist? But I'll come right to you because I also want Aloo Denish to introduce himself and his role. You're a bioscientist. How has the interest in politics and leadership come in?
Thank you, Stephanie, and I'm much honored and humbled to be here once again. And so my name is Aloo Denish. I'm a bioscientist, that's a biochemist, and a microbiologist by profession. So basically my career is science, research, and search. I work in a research setting where we do research on various things. And so besides that, I'm a poet. Have a lot of my published poems basing on different things: humanity, integrity, politics, culture, and identity, and such like things. And also an author of both science and literature stuffs.
So many things to your name.
Besides that, I am a youth leader. I have been engaged in politics quite extensively, and I once contested for an MP seat in Suba South.
Look at that.
And then though it did not end with a win, neither did I. The outcome was not what I expected, but
Were you in the ballot?
I showed my interest. I went up to nomination level, and towards the 2 weeks to nomination, the party that I was to vie with changed hands, that they're giving direct tickets. So it really disoriented everything. I had to try and register as an independent candidate, change my posters, which had spread all over. And so that change of things did not allow me to go all the way to the ballot, but I really did express my thought. So my understanding with the youth and political power, look at it this way: Kenya is a youthful nation, with 75% of the population below the age of 35, and the youth 18 to 35 forming the largest voting bloc. You see, this makes the youth a very decisive political force. But unfortunately, or ironically, despite their large numbers, the representation of youth in elective politics is disproportionately low. Why? Because politics is heavily guarded by wealth, dominated by dynasties and seasoned politicians, and controlled by patronage. And so the youths face what we call systemic exclusion, lack of resources, networks, and even political mentorship. So the youth's voices are drowned in structures that are designed to reward wealth and seniority. And to me, this really raises three critical governance concerns. First is that youth are the majority. How comes a numerically dominant group have such minimal political influence? And then, does it mean our political structures enable or frustrate youth engagement in politics? And finally, and which I think is the most important, is that how do youth themselves perceive their role in shaping Kenya's current and future politics? Could it be that it is the youth who have lost track or missed the way somewhere along the way? Because if democracy is a rule of the people, by the people, then excluding majority from leadership is not democracy at all. It's just aristocracy in disguise. So to me, in a nutshell, is that youth inclusion must not stop at the nomination list and token appointments. It must translate into active political decision-making positions.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely great, great remarks there. And I'm going to come to you just to follow up on a few things that you have mentioned, especially on the youth shaping the future of politics in Kenya right here. But let me come back to you, Agogo, and your position, you know, as a digital political communication strategist. So what does that really entail? What is it that you do? That, you know, as a strategist, for those that don't know, even if they want to pursue that as a career?
Well, so the first thing is, you know, advocacy. You see, like, you know, most of the time you realize that we have a lot of information outside there, but then some of these informations are misguiding or just not, you know, like well substantiated in terms of, you know, the references. So you find that you have a role as a communication political strategy to shape the narrative, to shape the political narrative. And in this case now, being the youth advocate, you need to, you know, shape the narrative by, you know, just engaging your target audience, who are the youths in this space, and ensuring that, you know, they be part of the, you know, political transformation and the political journey. Because you find that in the streets, or maybe when youth are on the streets, you find most of them, like the political players, would always take that advantage, because you find when the youths are not informed, some of them end up being, you know, misguided, and when they are misguided, they'll end up going to protest, I'd say, which is not bad. You see, as a people, we have that right, but then they have to be within the constraint of the constitution.
Okay.
Yeah. So, as an advocate, as a communication, you know, youth, you know, strategist, as we speak now, there is a conversation that is ongoing of 25th June. So, you find that there are youth that have been already maybe assembled or just preparing for this day. Yeah, if they go there, what are they going to do? Are they going to picket peacefully? Are they going to to call, like, what are the agenda? Because when you go there, or maybe when picketing, or maybe when calling the government, or just those in authority to respond, it have to be constructively. I always say that, but when you go there with a different motive, or maybe with a different motion, just agenda, then it will never augur well with you. And that's why, as an advocate, youth advocate in this space, in the political space, we call on everyone, even the political leaders. And that's why they all have to know that under Article 55, Constitution of Kenya says that they have to be protected. Youths have to be protected, the protection of youths under Article 55. And also Article 10, the key values of Article 10, that those in power should do what should protect their people. You see? So now it means that if it's for security forces, or maybe for the police service, they have to protect those who are demonstrating, who are expressing their democratic right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So once they go there, everyone has a role to play, and everyone have to be responsible. So that is my key role, whether on social media spaces, or now when we are now on Y254 on the media spaces, we have to just continue, advocating and just communicating the same gospel and message, so that it reaches the right persons.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is profound. Let me ask you, because we see a lot of narratives, because you have mentioned that you shape narratives, and particularly aligned with the youth. Because we have seen bloggers, some who are in the political space, some who are aligned with the government, some who are against the government, and we have seen others who are bloggers who are how do I put it? They are always against the government, no matter whatever the case is. So how do you draw that line in terms of giving out the information, shaping the right narrative, not to bring chaos, but to make sure that the youths are well represented, their issues are heard, and they are heard right?
Well, that's a good one. So many a times you'll find that for bloggers, I'd say we have those who incite, as you put it. We have those who just blog for the sake of just blogging, and then we have those who blogs soberly. Because you see now, someone said that internet does not forget. So anything that you post online, at some point, or maybe after some years, will always come to haunt you in one way or the other. Recently, when a youth vendor was shot by a rubber bullet, you see, as a sober person, as a sober Kenyan, that was not right, and that was not something that any sane blog, or maybe any sane digital activist, I'd say, would go outside there and start celebrating. Yeah. Yeah. So those are some of the things that you need to condemn, or just to speak very strongly about, because normally when you speak with facts, or maybe when you speak from some grounds, like someone would ask you, what is guiding your thought process, or maybe what is guiding your what you're posting, or maybe what you're writing. I'd agree that most as youths, most of us, and even I'd say Kenya, but then now in this context we are speaking to the youths. We take very minimal time to go through our constitution. So you see now when you speak under what guides your thought, or maybe just what you are speaking, then it becomes so easy to even question those in authority, and even talk directly to youths. You see now, but then many times we don't do that. We just talk out of emotions, without data, without information, without evidence, without anything that is guiding your points, or maybe just if you're correcting.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
If before coming in, when the incident happened, the police officer who shot the vendor guy, he was sorry when he was summoned. He was sorry. He was like, he did know that could happen. So it can tell you that, through that, if you continue, and you see now it doesn't stop, it doesn't end. It is something that is continuous, and you keep on talking and just mentioning until the day that will ensure that we have a sober and a stable country.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. Let me come back to you. Aloo, on the role of youth in shaping the future of politics. So how does that look like? How can youths play what are the roles and how can they come in?
Yes, thanks a lot. First of all, we can always learn from history that since even the time of the sacred scriptures to the moment, the mantle of leadership has always rested in the hands of the young. Look at it even in the biblical era. David in his early 20s, merely tending sheep in the wild, stood before Goliath when the seasoned warriors fled and trembled. The time of Joseph in his early 20s was entrusted with governing Egypt, became a prime minister and managed famine and even fed nations. The times of revolution, Alexander the Great became the king in his early 20s and even conquered the vast part of the known world just before 30. Back here in Kenya, Tom Mboya, one of the brilliant minds we've ever had, joined parliament in his early 20s and became a global statesman just before 30. And actually by the time he was being assassinated, he was only 39. So we cannot underestimate the power and the vigor of youth. And what I know is that when youth rise with a purpose, the world bends towards progress. And the misunderstanding we've had in the recent past is that youths have always been absorbed into political setup, not for ideas, but as agents of propaganda, violence, and spectacle. This is where we've missed the point, that politicians have always used youths as foot soldiers and political pawns for the political elites. They are praised for their energy, and then after the votes are counted, they are discarded. And when youths stop being used and become useful, they always shape the nation. So most of the revolutions or changes that we've seen in the world were brought by young people. Even the current old politicians. Talk about the second liberation. By then they were young people. That is when they erased the dictatorship that we had then. Today, they may have grown old and forgotten the path. And whenever there is a failing status quo, it's always the youth who stir conscience of the society and of the nation. So youths have a lot to play. Being that they are also the majority, they are the greatest consumer of everything that a country produces. And therefore, they are the ones greatly affected by the outcome of politics, economy, and whatever. Youth dominate the economic sector of the country, and therefore, they should also dominate the political sector, because the decisions and the policies made at the political level affects everything down to political structures and even our social structures. Again, we cannot leave our nation to be structured without us being involved, because we will be the ones who will be there tomorrow. And therefore, if we are involved in shaping our country today, we will be inheriting something that we are absolutely not part of. Yes, so youths have a lot to play. We have a lot in deciding the leadership of this country.
Okay, and I want to come back to you on that, but let me engage your name Agogo on this one as well, because you have said a lot of things that are profound, and I believe we should dwell on it a little bit more, on youth shaping the political future of Kenya. And he has mentioned that we need to take control of the political sector the same way that the youths are in control in the economic side. So do you agree with this, Agogo?
Yes, I do agree with that. Only that, my friend Denish should be able to put it more clear that how, like, you see now, it's not just a matter of, just shaping the political narrative. Yeah. Because we've all witnessed that many a times young people are always, you know, like misused in the political space because of their energies and because of their capabilities. So you see now, as a digital political strategist, that is now where we come in to, like, you know, where can, like, how do we need to have this, you know, political narratives change? Like, what are some of the strategies that we need to, you know, to deploy, or maybe as we change the narrative, what should guide us in this conversation? What should guide us in this journey, or maybe in this space of changing the political narrative? Yeah, because you realize that as we are there at the forefront, you also need to be very cognizant of the those in the authority. Yeah. And of course, those in the authority should also know that they have a role to play, a role to protect the young generation, the young people. So that is the only part that now I think for my friend, he should be able to, like, you know, remind, you know, as a youth leader, and of course someone who vied, you know, before in the political space, that as we do it, we need to be very cognizant of the you know, of the guiding principles of the, you know, constitution of the day, and just ensure that as we run through the space, youth are radical. We all know we have to be guided by the constitution of the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is also important, because I remember last year during the protest, the youths became more aware of the Constitution and their rights in the Constitution. But should they also be aware of the limits of the Constitution? Because I know some people in the political sector, and you know, even in the civil sector, they were saying that even freedom, as much as we have freedom, our freedom stops where the other persons begin. So you can say freedom of speech, but again, you go overboard. You forget that there's the other person who also has freedom to their name, to their privacy, to all that. Because squeezy kuna, you know, kusalimia, and it's a thing.
Exactly.
We saw the lawyer to the one who's representing the police who shot Boniface step down from the case because of the number of people who went to salimia him. So how do we balance this? How do you think, or how do you suggest that we should balance this before I come back to Aloo?
So now, when balancing act, you know, cuts across between the young people, between the youths, actually three: the youths, the state, and those in authority. Because as a state, they have a right to protect these youths. Youths have a right to picket. They have a right to express their, you know, how they feel. Yeah, even the one that has been planned on 25th. They have a right under the Constitution. They have to do it. But then... They
picket, but not vandalize property.
Not vandalize property.
Limit,
Exactly. Because even in Article 1, sovereignty of the people, people's power, they can exercise their right, or maybe their power, everything, but then within the confines of the Constitution, you see. And then under Article 55, the state, those in authority have to protect the young people, the youths. So that one goes to the police service. Yeah, as young people go there, they have to protect them, you know. You don't have a right to do what? To shoot or maybe to kill them. Yeah, okay. So it cuts across.
It cuts across all of them.
Yeah.
Back to you, Aloo, and what you had said before still on youths taking control of the political sector. Are the youths ready to take control of the political sector? Because that is what we were discussing with my co-host earlier on. Because currently there's the Gen Z revolution, as it said, but they're saying there are no leaders. They're leaderless. Gen Z are leaderless. So they don't want anyone to represent them. But then how will they elect people if they don't want to be represented? Once you say, oh, I'm coming on behalf of the youth to speak, they will say, you are not with us, you're not for us. Then how will they have people who are elected in positions where they will have their voices heard?
Wow, great. I want to begin by saying that I think the greatest undoing of the youth is a lack of unity of purpose or common grounds. That and a divided youth is the happiness of status quo. Youths have initially, as I said, have been used by politicians using divide and rule, so that at any one point, youths are divided along political, ethnic extractions, along personalities. And yes, so you find that at no one point, youth support a common thing like they did in the last year Gen Z protest. But there is hope, because even in the recent election, in the last general election, there increased a number of youths vying or contesting for various political positions. I think the statistics were showing more than 1,300 youths who are registered to, who actually expressed their interest to contest for various political positions. That shows you that there is increased awareness and awakening among the youth to take up political positions within the constitutional frameworks. Now, back to maybe expressing their voice through protest and demonstrations. We affirm the constitutional rights to peaceful protest, but at the same time, we actually do not agree with anarchy or lawlessness, because if we lose our state to anarchy, we will even lose the peace, and we will also lose the purpose for which we are fighting. So we want to call shots on both sides to the police. Let them not use excessive force. Actually, let them not use force at all. Their work is to protect the protesters. And the protesters, let us march not to destroy, but to be heard. Let us speak, not to burn, but to pass a message. Because only through that will we achieve what we want. We do not want our nation to go down like the banana republics. We want to retain our peace, our political stability, because with political stability, we will also achieve economic stability. Yes.
Okay, amazing. Now, based on your experience from the last elections, you vying for the position of Suba South MP, how did you see it like? And you have already mentioned that youths are being used, not being useful, and they're being used as propagandists to fuel that and all that. But now come this next elections, how can youths now position themselves strategically to be at positions where they're not just receiving handouts and supporting leaders who do not have a vision for the country?
Yes, I think first, from my experience in the last general election, and also as a contestant, as a candidate, I think I saw that youths face what I can call a trinity of challenges. We have a political, cultural, and even social. Political campaigns are very expensive, and Kenyan politics has really transformed into a money activity, and therefore you realize that most youths are priced out.
Because they're not able to afford.
Yes, this democracy has been turned into an auction, such that we look more on money than merit, so that the more you dish out, the more you have followers. So I think that has been one of the challenges. There is this cultural ageism that glorifies the old as natural leaders, but that people believe as you grow old, you are more better positioned to lead. But I think when we are talking about leadership and age, we should not confuse the length of years with the depth of vision. Leadership is not accumulation of birthdays. I believe it is the courage to lead with principle and vision. So that is also a concept that really needs to sink into the society, that we stop seeing young people as inexperienced, as toddlers, political toddlers for that matter. Because you can grow old without a vision still. And so we do not need to judge them based on their age. And also, I think that going forward, politics should be, government should restructure politics in such a way that it should be favorable for the youth. For example, why don't we demonetize political campaigns? so that it happens in other states. They monitor the amount of money you use.
Wow.
So that we also reduce nomination cost. For example, when we were going for nomination for a party, you had to pay almost 250,000. You see, 250,000 for a youth, you've already priced out several youths. So why don't we make the nominations favorable to youths? And then why don't we also fully implement Article 55? That will also ensure youth inclusion. I have been thinking about one thing. You see, the designers of this constitution, in their wisdom, realized that women were not able to cope up in a male-dominated politics. And so they created
The
women representatives. If things become thick, that youths, by all means, structures do not allow them, then why don't we come up with youth quotas that really restricts that in the Parliament, National Assembly and the Senate, and in other quarters of the government like the executive and the political commissions, so that we have restrictions that a given percentage must be youths. This one will help us achieve a lot in terms of ensuring youth inclusion in the decision-making processes. Number two, we have seen great progress because we are beginning to have youth-led movements. Initially, youths have been trying to get themselves fixed into the existing political setups, political parties, which have turned into clubs of patronage by the old or seasoned politicians, so that there are structures of rewarding wealth and seniority. So you can join those political parties as a contestant, but they have already decided they are not going to give you a ticket without telling you, actually, because there's somebody there who is coming with bundles of cash. So currently we have seen youth-led movements beginning to come up, the likes of Morara forming their parties. Whether or not people unanimously agree, whether or not they unanimously agree, it is a good step that we can have a youth-led political party. Yes. Okay. So I think there's good progress, and so far, so good. We are moving in the right direction.
So far, so good.
Yes.
I think I love that. And you've said so many things that have caught my attention. It's not the length of the years, but it's the depth of the vision. Yes. I love it. And I think we really need to have that mindset as a people. And, you know, let me ask you, Agogo, do you feel like the youths are ready to lead in this country? Do you feel like they need to be given positions, MPs, gubernatorial seats? Do you think that they are ready for these positions?
Well, if you go back to last year's election, 2022 elections, the youth involvement in the political space was so minimal, and when we look at the social media platforms, you realize that TikTok being one of them, there was no in terms of content. Sorry, there was a minimal content creation on TikTok apps, and after when was it, last year's Gen Z's April, that's when now the young one, like the first votes, we call them virgin voters, those who are voting for the first time, the virgin voters, and maybe the comrades, those who are in colleges and in universities,
in high school, those who are finishing,
and those who are finishing, exactly. So and even some to your surprise, you realize that at some point you could have a political conversation, but then if you ask someone, or maybe if you ask your sibling, the younger sibling, they are not even aware that things are tensed. Like, say now, if it's the one that is coming on Wednesday, by now, like, I'd say like nearly everyone is aware. Like, they're like, there is something that is coming on Wednesday, the 25th, the 25th June, picketing. So that can tell you how, the rate, like the awareness and the political involvement of youths have gone a bit higher compared to, the previous years.
Yeah.
So I think youths have also realized that, the young ones have realized that the political decisions, some of these policies affects them either directly or indirectly. Before, you could tell maybe a Gen Z about, you know, a political, or maybe just a political conversation, having a political conversation, they're like, what are you telling me? What are you trying to you know, to, what is that? You see, like, how does political leaders, or maybe how does politics affect me? But then they realize that if you don't, you know, if you're not part of it, if you're not part of the conversation, if you're not aware of, you know, the happening in terms of the political, you know, awareness and the policy, some of these policies that are passed in the parliament will do what? Will come and affect them. So I'd say that after 2022 to where we are now, if you compare the, you know, awareness in terms of leadership and the, you know, youth involvement in the political space, it has really gone up. Yeah.
Okay.
And of course now in the you know, as a political communication strategist and youth advocate in the political space, that is, you know, one of our primary role, or maybe just agenda, to ensure that these conversations sink down the political to the young people of our nation, and just ensuring that as youths we are involved in this. To respond to the question where youths are ready or not, the youths are ready. It's only that we need to have, you know, we need to speak, you know, one voice. But you see now, when we are divided, when we are disoriented, like we are not speaking one voice, it becomes a problem. Yeah. So that is where now the political class, the political elites takes the advantage, because you see, when you're not when you're not speaking one voice, it becomes so difficult to do what? To rally behind one leader. But then I'd say that we have a good number of leaders. The best example was the recent appointment that was done, PS Fikirini Jacobs. That's a young youth from Kilifi, and that can tell you that as young Kenyans we are capable, and we are ready for the leadership. But then only if we speak one voice and we stop the ethnicity and the tribal lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, wow. We are ready if we are speaking one voice, and you know, you mentioned if we go beyond the tribal lines. Do you believe, or let me ask you, Aloo, do you still think, because for the longest time Kenya has been divided along the tribal lines, you know, so leaders would come and say, you know, sisi ni wa from huku to votini huku, you know, people would say such things, and even still now you would see the current political class, they're still using the same language. But do you think the current generation is influenced by that? And as much as they're saying we are tribeless, we're leaderless, do you think that at some point when it gets to 2027, that influence will still be there, the tribal influence?
Thank you. Just before I address that, let me emphasize something you said on youth activism on social media. Okay, while I applaud the youth activeness in social media, I think for far too long the youths have been too active on social media as compared to being active on the ground. Someone says that tweets may stir the mind, but it's votes that decide. So it's high time youths move from the hashtags to the hallways of power. We must stop just complaining and contesting in social media and take part in real political affairs, in decision making, in public forums, in elections, and in actually running for elective positions. That only will change, because if we remain to be active in social media with hashtags and whatever, hashtags will not make a policy, will not change anything. Eventually the people who matter will be the people who will have been elected, and the people who elect, it's us. So back to your question, it is true that Kenya is largely politics in Kenya is largely tribal based. If you look at even our current political parties, they have what we call their strongholds. And the strongholds are basically ethnic extractions. And this has really consumed the entire population of Kenya for a very long time. Let me say from independence, that it has blinded us even from choosing leaders on merit. We've all actually always chosen leaders based on their ethnic extractions, and sometimes even protected thieves and criminals just because they belong to our tribes.
Our communities.
And I want to say that I can see some kind of awakening among the youth. Let's speak, for example, the Gen Z protest last year, Reject Finance Bill 2024. That was universal, that was tribeless, and that was effective. You can see, only when the youths relinquish their tribal cocoons and speak in one voice can a government listen. I'm very sure if youths grouped that Gen Z revolution, if they grouped based on their political extraction, the government would not have scrapped off the finance bill. But you saw the president coming out and saying, I have heard you because I can see you are tribeless. And therefore, our voices carried the day. So it's a challenge, yes. The politics of tribes is still very dominant, even as we can see right now. But it's up to us, the youth, that we need to see the change and stop basing our politics and policies on tribes, but on issues and on merit. Yes.
Okay, so we totally agree that without the tribal politics, then we are moving ahead as a country, even as young people who want their voices to be heard in the elections. Let me come to you, Agogo. Again, with the story of social activism that he has commented on, what you said, do you feel that the activism that is there online has destabilized to an extent the traditional campaigns that the political class are used to doing? You know, the numbers. So you would go, the crowd, you know, in campaigns, they have the numbers. Because some people say that some of the politicians have said, "Nyi muongeni huko kwa ground, tuko na numbers," you know. But again, online they also have numbers. So do you think it's affecting them to an extent, or this is just something that will pass away and then we go back to how it is?
Before responding to that, just allow me to also react based on what my friend Danish has just you know, posed on the digital space. Like if the digital conversation can change the narrative, can change the policies. It's like we like in the digital space we cannot change the narrative online, but then where we are, you see now the conversation from the old way of politics. You see, most of the things are done online. Even the first meeting that was called on X, it was online. It's only that comparing, like in terms of percentage, in terms of engagement, most of these things, most of activism have gone online, because if the majority are youth, and even our parents are in the digital space nowadays as we speak. Someone would ask you that they also want to they want to open an account, have a TikTok account, and you're like, Dad, how would this work? So that can tell you how the digital space have grown, and the conversation on the technology and how the technology is moving so fast. Yeah. So that one will, in fact, the next election, 2027 election, will be highly decided by the online, conversation, because by the time now you are coming to the ground, you find that most of the things have been planned, and you see it was so organic. Like online, you plan it there, so now when you come now to the ground, it's just now implementation. Once most of the conversations have taken place online.
Yes.
So it's a fact that that is the direction that we are in, and that is something that we cannot run away from. We just have to embrace that we are in the digital space, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, true.
Now, absolutely. What would you tell a young person out there who feels disillusioned about politics, and they're like, I'm not into politics. This is not my thing. As much as Gen Z is all about politics now, more than any other generations have been very active into what is happening. But there are those that still feel like probably voting, no, my vote probably would not count. Some people have that such talks, so I'm probably not going to even to waste my time making a line to vote. So what would you tell such a youth?
Well, for you to be a change agent or maybe just a change maker, I'd say we always say that in your small spaces, in your small cocoons, you can always, effect a change. It doesn't like I know how Denish puts it that there must be, because of our political systemic challenges, you must have resources for you to be nominated, but then in your small spaces you can change, you can come up with a conversation and just change a small group. And you see, as you change a small group, that small group will become an ambassador, right? So the most important part is just to be aware, like that awareness creation and the sensitization part of it. We need to be aware of our political happenings, of our political trends, the latest in the political, not only in Kenya and even globally, but then now locally, it is so key to be aware. Because you see now, if you are informed, it's so different from someone who is not, informed. So it is good to be informed and just ensure that for any source of information, be close. Nowadays, we are informations, like we have information everywhere. On social media, on TVs, on TikToks, the information is there. And again, you have to verify that information, because you can have the information which is misleading or maybe misguiding. So that is now the point where now we come in as a digital, strategist and of course the youth advocate in this space, just to ensure that we impact and we share the right information, of course, and just ensuring that this information, they're accessible to the youth. Someone who's informed, there are things you'll never find them doing. Even if it's protest or maybe just picketing, they'll do it responsibly. They'll go there that, once they're in the streets, so they'll be cognizant that anything that they do will have an impact, either positive or negative, to them and of course to the people, that are around them, or maybe to the general society. Yeah,
absolutely great.
Yeah.
So it's in their them being the awareness and them being informed on what's happening, on the importance of them exercising their rights and everything.
Yeah.
And that is happening very rapidly in the social media spaces. And tough things are being broken down. So I think, efforts are being made in that area. I understand that you have something to say, Danish.
Yes, and it pricks me. I want to talk to the youths that about their political apathy and inconsistency. Youths who feel disengaged and uninterested and indifferent in politics. That someone once said that the price the good men pay for being indifferent in political affairs is to be governed or ruled by the evil men. And actually the loudest endorsement of wickedness is the silence of the virtuous. So I want
Come
to...
again with that. You need to take that slower when you're saying it. You're just brushing with the words of wisdom.
Oh, I don't know whether I can remember it, but I said that the silence of the virtuous is actually the loudest endorsement of wickedness. When we are too silent and we think that the government policies do not affect us, that politics is not our thing, let us come to think of it. The SHA, the healthcare policies result from political class and from the policies made in parliament. The education system and the funding, those are all policies that have been put in place by political elites. Think about even the prices of commodities and every other thing that affect our day-to-day activities, either directly or indirectly, as a result of political policies. So I think, of course, in the past we've had youths feeling indifferent to politics, but today you can see that youths have felt the impact of politics directly in their lives.
Yeah.
Everything going around and the political activism in the social media he's talking about is as a result of dissatisfaction expression of dissatisfaction among the youth.
Okay.
Yes, so it's high time that the youth should realize that politics affect us directly and indirectly, and therefore we should actually come up strongly and take up political activities as our own, at our own interest. We should be engaged in public political forums. We should actually vote, and if possible, for the youths who can, we should run for elective positions and actually implement the very policies that we've been fighting for in the streets. You see, when youths miss their place in the table, they usually find themselves in the streets.
Wow.
And in some unfortunate circumstances, in the morgues, as we've witnessed. And that is not what we want. We want to bring the youths in the decision-making table so that they can be part and parcel of the policies that they claim day to day affect their lives. Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. I don't think there's any more I can add to that. But let me ask you, as someone who I believe, are you aspiring to also vie again come 2027?
Of course, but a day in politics.
1,000 days. Yes. So for someone who is in politics, let me put it that way, people say that yes, you elect people and they are all good and they have great manifestos, even for the young people, especially for the young people, and they are all good until they get that seat. They don't know what spirit is there when they get to, the National Assembly or whatever they go to, but they change. They are totally different people. So what is it about that, or how can you comment on that?
Great. They say that politics is where the ideals of the society meet the realities of power. There are those ideals that we fight for, and then there is a reality we meet after election, which could be pressures from seasoned politicians, which could be threats and intimidations.
Influence from the political party?
Yes,
maybe?
Influence and threats even from maybe government agencies when someone tries to stand for the rights of people. So yes, we can say there are those realities we meet in power, but that notwithstanding, history is not short of leaders who are elected young and stood to the truth. There are also people who can masquerade as good leaders before election.
No, they're very good at it.
And they are very good at it with propaganda and the sweet tongue domotamuze. And after election, they really reveal their true self. I don't think power changes people. Power reveals the true self of people. So if you see individuals who actually transform all of a sudden and become bad leaders, I really doubt that they were good people to begin with. We had the likes of, in history, we have the likes of Martin Luther King Jr. They stood to their principle to the last drop of their blood. Nothing changed them. Nothing at all. So that is not to say that, that is why I'm saying let youths value merit over money.
Merit over money.
Yes, let them value merit over money. What we do is that, yes, some young people will come heavily funded by some interested parties. So once they are elected, these people they are obliged to implement the interest of the funders and the donors. So because the political campaigns need money, they have no option but to look for money from elsewhere. But they are given on condition that upon winning, we have to get
you
this.
will push our ideals.
Yes. So that's why I'm going back to the point where I was saying, let us demonetize political campaigns. Let us reduce the cost of politics. And therefore, people will be campaigning on policies and principles and issue-based politics. And people will be able to choose on merit and not who is able to dish more cash.
More cash,
yes.
Absolutely amazing. And we are pressed for time, so I want you to give your remarks, different remarks. Let me start with you, Agogo. What would you see, how do you see, or where do you see the youth political movement in Kenya in the next 5 to 10 years? You can add anything that you want to close with as you answer to that.
Well, as I started, I shared that number one, as a youth, as a people, anything that we do, we have a guiding document, and that is our constitution. So anytime before we, before we even proceed to picket and just to do anything, we have to remember that we have, some guidelines, some principles that guides us. Yeah, and of course also those in the authority, right? So as we speak, looking at 5-10 years from now, if there must be something that guides you. There must be something that pushes you to be outside there, or just to leave. Say now you are going to the streets. Some of us have been to the streets, and we will still be going to the streets. But then, as you go to the street, just remember that you have to be responsible, and you have to do it objectively, right? As we call on those who are in a position of power, position of leadership, we have to be cognizant of them, that they are also working within the time limits, or maybe the time frame to deliver. So we have to be logical enough, and just to ensure that as we push those who are in the position of power, we must be guided, and we must not be inciting, right? Because as you incite, or maybe as you call on other leaders, maybe as you call on the names of other leaders, it waters down the spirit of the fighting spirit on the street once you go to protest, or maybe to picket, or just to question. Okay. But then as we do it genuinely, as we started, remember last year when the first Gen Z revolution started, it was so pure, and it was on youths, right? And everyone was outside there because of the challenges, the concerns that they face as young people and as a country. But then later on, it changes to a conversation changes. So if you are guided by that, and you just have the key principles, and ensure that you go there as a Kenyan, and that mzalendo at the back of your mind, then we'll by 5 or maybe 10 years we'll achieve much. Okay. As advocates and as activists in the political space and in the political journey.
Okay,
yeah.
So as long as there's a unity in purpose,
exactly.
Speak one voice.
Genuinely.
Great.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on your social media handles?
On my social media handles, you can just search Agogo Mkare. Yeah,
Agogo
Mkare, yeah. That is on Facebook, on X, and no, I'm not on TikTok.
Okay.
Out on TikTok.
If you're there. All right. Let me come back to you, Aloo, and just to ask you this together with your closing remarks. That I already asked him. So what would you do differently if you had a seat at the national decision-making table today? What would you do differently if you had a seat at the national decision-making table today? And what are your final remarks?
Yes, exactly. It's not much of what I would do differently, but much of what I would do is already in the public domain, but has been blatantly ignored. If I'm in the decision-making table, I know the issues affecting Kenyans. I know the issues of economy. I know the issues of health. I know the issues of education. And I know all the issues that Kenyans are universally suffering from. Actually, not only youths, including the old generation, or the aged for that matter. I would insist and ensure that these issues are addressed strictly. Number 2, I would at all cost fight against corruption, because I believe Kenya is a well-resourced country. It's only that there's a lot of embezzlement and corruption that leads to our resources being driven to other activities that are not in the interest of wananchi. Now, to the youths, as I've said before, Kenya is a youthful population, and is growingly becoming youthful as time goes by. And so therefore we have the numbers, we have the will, and we have the capacity. Let it not be said that we had the numbers and we remained silent. Let it not be said to the youths that we inherited a broken system and passed it down without mending it. No. To the political class, I would like to tell them that youths are not a threat to stability. We are actually the stability that the systems have delayed. Wow. So give us a chance. We are not asking for leadership because we are young, but we are asking because we are ready, and because we have the will and we know the way. So we are the generations we have been waiting for, and we refuse to wait any longer. Yes.
Wow, what a way to close it. You're truly a poet.
Yes. So on my social media handles, You can find me Aloo Denish. And on Google, because I've published several things, poetry, science publication, and even other literature stuff, just Google Aloo Denish Obiero. That is my third name. I had not said it.
Okay.
Yes.
Aloo Denish Obiero. Thank you very much,
Yes.
gentlemen, for your time here. Words of wisdom. This has been definitely a great panel to have. I hope you have received a lot of gems from this particular discussion. You can talk to us at Y254. The hashtag is Y in the morning. You can get them on their social media handles. Give them your views as well, even as they continue to speak out in different platforms and advocate for change, positive change in the country. So with me, I've had Agogo Mikaresh, who's a digital political communication strategist, youth advocate, and Aloo Denish, who's a youth leader and bioscientist. That's it from this particular segment. We're going to take a short break, and then Brian Sakwa will be coming up with that interesting discussion. So stick with us.